Hey everybody, it's Charles from HumbleMechanic.com. Today, we're taking out the headlights and replacing the wiring on my Passat. This is sort of part 3, I guess technically, on fixing the turn signals on my Passat. We diagnosed it, we removed the bumper cover, now we're going to take the headlights out and actually replace the wiring. This is available from Volkswagen, the whole entire wiring kit. The tools you're going to need are going to be a T30, a T25, a flat blade screwdriver, a pocket screwdriver, a pick will really come in handy, as well as a T10 Torx to remove one screw inside of the headlight. The way I installed this harness was without manipulating it anyway. There are a couple ways you could do this that would probably make this job way easier. You could depin the connector of the turn signal portion. You'll see in a few minutes, that's the hardest part, and feed it back through the headlight. That'll make it very, very easy. Just be careful not to damage the terminals. You could also cut the turn signal wires, run them, and then splice them back together where there's plenty of room to make repairs. I'm not going to hate on anybody for doing that. These did take me about 10 to 15 minutes to run, just to run those wires. So I sped a lot of stuff up so you guys didn't have to watch me fumble with it for a long time. But trust me, I did fumble with it quite a bit. This is not the easiest thing to do. There's also, you could drill out plugs to gain access to screws and completely disassemble the headlight, or at least completely take loose the reflector piece, but I didn't really want to do that either. So I fought it. I probably did it the hard way. Here's the hard way to do it. We do need to take this center support out. It's just 5 T30s. There's 3 at the top and then 2 hidden at the bottom. Take this and set this to the side as well. Now, removing the headlights are actually pretty straightforward. There's 2 T25 Torx at the top. So there's 2 screws at the back underneath the hood area for the headlight. We need to pop out this rubber dampener piece, and that'll give us access to the final screw. Now we can go ahead and disconnect the headlight, as well as the xenons. And of course, the same thing needs to happen on the other side. Here is our headlight that we're going to go ahead and swap the harness on. It's going to be the same for the left and the right side, so we're going to go ahead and do the right side. First, let's start off by taking all the bulbs out. That's the turn signal. We'll pull the covers off. This just simply pushes down to release the lock tabs. And this little guy already fell off, which is pretty common anyway. This covers the low beam bulb. Let's pull the HID out, lay that off to the side. We'll go ahead and twist the high beam out. Now, you don't really want to touch the bulb with bare, especially greasy, dirty hands. And also, you're going to need to save these retaining clips for both the low beam and the high beam. The new harness does not come with it. If you have gloves on, just go ahead and reach in and pull the bulb out. If you don't, do what you got to do to not touch the glass and lay the bulb down to the side. There's just 2 release tabs for the clip, and we'll go ahead and pop that off too. All right, and finally, way back up there is the city light. Go ahead and pull that out as well. You see that wire is pretty bad too. So our goal is to get all of this harness, including the challenging part right here, the turn signal contacts, out of the headlight and install new ones. And in order to do that, we're going to start by pulling out the connector housing, because all the wires are going to pull out through there. Now, this can be a little bit tricky. The easiest way I've found is to reach inside the headlight, and where my finger is it's over on this side, pulling on a lock tab, and then taking a pocket screwdriver or a small screwdriver and prying it off. Now, my hand's still inside, and I'm actually holding the connector housing with my thumb because I don't want it to snap back in to the lock position. So I'm going to keep the screwdriver here and then push on the other tab to completely release it. If that doesn't work, you can also just try and pry around it. You just want to be careful not to break or damage this part too much. You see I marred it a little bit there because that will break the seal of the connector. So again, if you're gonna do it that way, you wanna be really careful not to mar this up too bad. Where I did that shouldn't be a problem. This is how the connector sits in there. So my hand is back right here, pulling this tab this way, and then the tricky one is actually pushing this one this way in order to release them both. All of our harnesses are loose except the turn signal one. Now, out of this whole entire job, removing the headlight and everything, this is the most tricky part of all. We have to feed this past the turn signal, down, around, through the headlight, and then out. All this stuff's gonna come out pretty easily. It's already halfway apart anyway. We're going to start by removing this T10 Torx. Right, now that we have our T10 out and this is in a little bit better position to see, what we need to do is we need to remove these contacts from the housing. And these are just gonna pry up a little bit and come right out pretty easily. And then we'll do the other one as well. A pick might also work really well here too. That was the easy part, getting them loose from the housing. The way these are shaped, they don't really go past through the rest of the headlight very easy. So there's a couple of things we can do. I'm not gonna hate on anybody for making this snip and pulling it through. Honestly, that's gonna be the easiest way getting it out. And since we're replacing it, who cares what it really looks like when we're done with the old one. Unfortunately, going back together with it's gonna be a little bit more challenging. So the way that I found to do this that works really well without messing up the headlight housing is taking a flat blade screwdriver, inserting it at about 3 o'clock, rotating it clockwise, and that not only lifts the housing for the turn signal up, but it creates a little bit bigger gap. You also want to be really careful with this screwdriver. We don't want to break the reflector of the headlight. So what I do is I actually grab the other side wire and then just kind of nurse this out. Sometimes you got to be really gentle. Sometimes you got to give it the business a little. It also helps maybe to grab a very small pair of pliers so you can get it at the right angle and fish it down. Now I bent that a little bit to get it out. If need be, we can even pry up a little bit more on the reflector. Whatever we basically got to do to get this out. All right, so there's one. You can see I flattened it a little bit. So next we'll do the other side. There's a bigger space at about 6 o'clock to get this out. So that seems to be kind of the sweet spot to move these pieces to. And bending it together a little bit did seem to help as well. So what I did there is I just completely flattened it like that, and that worked really, really well. The only problem is going back together with it, we're not gonna wanna do that because the way that that holds its shape is it's bent sort of like that around the headlight housing right here. So now that those are out, we're gonna leave our screwdriver in because that was a pretty good position. We're going to pull all of the harness out of the headlight. You can just see just how bad this headlight harness really was. And this wasn't the one that was blowing the fuse. This was the side that was working okay. Let's take a look at our new one. You can see this is quite a bit nicer, a much happier place. So these are bent properly already. Remember, our green wire was here, our brown wire was here. What I found to be a pretty good trick is to take some fishing line and then run it into the headlight. All right, now that we got our line in and ready to go, we're going to feed all of our wires through the connector opening. We're gonna feed everything through here, all of our connectors. We're gonna do our turn signals first and then come back and do everything else. Now, I'm not gonna snap this in place just in case I need to get it back out. It's kind of a pain in the butt to get out, so I don't like to put anything together that I don't have to. Let's start with the brown wire, And all we're going to do, we're going to loop this around, snug it down, and then tie it. If you have a knot you prefer, use that one. And then we're going to pull it through. Now, you want to be at the bottom of the headlight when you're pulling this through. So, make sure that it's down as low as I can get it. This is where a pick, because I can actually see the harness. You guys can't, but I can see it through here. We want it all the way as low as it'll go. So you may have to kind of get your hand in there and help it along. There we go. We can see our harness there. Now we have to kind of use a little bit of luck and a little bit of magic to really get this harness out through. Now this harness is sitting at the bottom here. So I'm going to pry up a little more, see if we can't pull her through. It's really hard to show you exactly where this harness is, but it's sitting right about here. We got our wire right here. It's pretty close. Just needs that final little bit. There we go. All right, let's run our fishing line again. Make sure you hold your wire and your fishing line so it doesn't get sucked back through. Although if that went back through, I think I would just quit. All right, so we got our other one. Let's go ahead and tie our knot. We're running it all the way down at the bottom, just like we did the first one. And it's through. Let's make sure that we get these in the proper position. So I need to move this brown wire over a little bit, and we rotate it into place. All right, now you notice we marred this up a tiny, tiny bit. Not going to be a big deal. Everything else looks like it's intact. Before we forget, let's go ahead and run our T10 back in. That's a small enough screw and I'd hate to forget it. And we can go ahead and test fit our turn signal. There we go, everything fits. So we're good there. From here on out, it's pretty straightforward. Basically, installation is reverse of removal. We'll put our city light bulb back in. I'm going to actually leave this one out and make sure that it works and that I had it installed in the right orientation. Go ahead and install our high beam bulb. And don't forget to put the clip on. And then we simply just need to twist this into place. Give it a little pull to make sure it's locked in. Now, because I have aftermarket xenons, I'm going to cut this. And I'm going to feed these through to where they're going to go. Let's go ahead and lock into place our connector. This is going to be an extra wire. It doesn't apply to my headlight, so I'm just going to leave it. There's no reason to cut it. Now we have to go ahead and splice the xenon connector into here. Go ahead and cut the old connectors off. Strip the wiring down. So I like to use these crimp-on and heat shrinkable wire connectors. You can use these, you can solder it. Whatever makes a good sturdy connection is fine with me. Let's go ahead and crimp those. Always give them a little tug. And we'll go ahead and do the other side. Give it a little tug. We'll strip our wires for the headlight harness. Go ahead and connect these up as well. Let's go ahead and heat these up and seal these connectors. All right, now that all that is back together, we're actually ready pretty much to go ahead and put this together. Let's go ahead and install the headlight xenon bulb. So from here, all I really need to do is I'm going to put this cover back on. I'm going to leave this other cover back off, this one that covered this, because I'm going to plug the headlights in, make sure everything works, make sure that my city light is plugged in the correct way. Remember, that's an LED, so it doesn't work both ways. Oh, and if you're doing both sides, go ahead and do the other side too. One thing you may also want to do is blow out the headlight. Make sure you don't leave any of that sheathing in the headlight or anything like that. Also worth taking a look at the front and making sure you don't have too much junk in there. You can see I have a little bit of debris from this turn signal bulb. So I might blow this out and get some of that crap out of there. Okay, pretty much installation is opposite of removal. I'm going to go ahead and put my turn signal back in. I did blow the headlight out a little bit. There was a couple of pieces of sheathing inside the headlight. One tip, you want to make sure when you're installing a headlight that you don't end up scratching it on the fender. This car's not too bad for that, but some of the newer cars, it's a bit tricky. Let's go ahead and lay the headlight in. And then what I usually do is I take one screw and I just start it. And that way I don't have to worry about the headlight falling out, but I still have the flexibility just in case a wire's stuck in the wrong spot. Next, we want to go ahead and plug everything in and make sure that the headlight works. We'll start with the main headlight plug and then move on to the xenon plugs. Now that the headlight's plugged in, let's go ahead and test drive all the lights and make sure they work. All right, looks like everyone's happy and working just fine. Let's go ahead and secure our headlight. Now I do like to start all 4 bolts before tightening down one of them. That way I can make sure it's not in a bind. Remember, we have this hidden one down here. Okay, let's go ahead and snug up all of our T20s. Even though we're not completely done, I like to do a quick check of the alignment of the headlight. So it actually looks like I need to bring the headlight over a little bit because there's going to be a bit of a weird gap. What I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen all 4 bolts again. And then try and get the headlight a little bit closer to where I want it to be. And that's going to be a little bit better than it was before. Next, we're going to do the exact same thing on the driver's side. We're going to do our center support. The bolts that hold that center support look just like this. They have a little shoulder right here. Make sure you get them back where they go. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Questions, comments, you know what to do. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. I appreciate that. Don't forget to subscribe right here on YouTube or over on the blog at humblemechanic.com. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course Snapchat. If you want exclusive content, discounts you can't get anywhere else to places like Eastwood, Sonic Tools, Adams Polishes, Scanner Danner's book, MT Knives, Sonic Tools, which I think I already said, Petrol Box, and more. Check out the crew membership program. Links down in the description. You can also throw some support over on Patreon or use my Amazon link. I appreciate all that. It does literally help me keep the lights on. Thanks guys so much for watching. I love you, and I'll see you next time.